He had just returned from a long day, standing at the gate of the home he had worked his whole life to build. But instead of peace, he was met with suspicion. Guards blocked his path, questioning if he even belonged there. Imagine the sting, being treated like an intruder at your own front door. What they didn't know was that the man they were humiliating held a truth powerful enough to shake them to their core. This is the story of what happened next. It was a quiet evening, the kind he had always looked forward to after a long day. Marcus, a respected businessman in his community, had spent years working tirelessly to create a life of stability. He wasn't born into privilege. Every stone of his home, every inch of success, was the result of determination, sacrifice, and late nights that few ever saw. His house stood tall at the end of a gated lane, a symbol of both his achievements and his perseverance in a world that often told him he wasn't meant to succeed. To Marcus, it wasn't just a house, it was proof to himself and to his family that dreams could be built from the ground up. That evening, he carried nothing more than his briefcase and the quiet satisfaction of another day completed. The neighborhood was calm, the air still, and for a moment he allowed himself to breathe deeply, grateful for how far he had come. But life has a cruel way of reminding people like Marcus that no matter how high they climb, there are always those ready to pull them back down. As he approached his own gate, he noticed two security guards watching him with sharp, distrustful eyes. Their post was familiar, hired to protect the very homes on this street, including his own. Yet something in their gaze told him tonight would not be ordinary. He thought nothing of it at first, but within seconds, that simple walk home would turn into a test of dignity, a confrontation that would expose more than just bias. It would reveal the truth about power, respect, and identity. Marcus slowed, his pace as he approached the gate, expecting the usual nod or brief greeting from the guards. After all, they had seen him countless times before, coming, going, dressed for work, sometimes with his family by his side. But tonight, instead of respect, he was met with suspicion. One of the guards stepped forward, raising a hand in a gesture that felt less like a greeting and more like a warning. "Hold up," the man said sharply. His eyes narrowed, scanning Marcus from head to toe, as though he were assessing a stranger trespassing on private property. Marcus paused, caught off guard by the sudden hostility. "Is there a problem?" he asked calmly, keeping his voice even, but the guard's expression hardened. "This area is restricted. Residents only." The words struck Marcus like a blow. He glanced at the familiar gate behind them, his gate, his home, and then back at the men blocking his path. A second guard joined in, his tone laced with authority. "We're going to need proof that you belong here." Proof. As if his presence in front of his own home required justification. Marcus felt the sting of humiliation rising in his chest. He had worked his whole life to escape these kinds of moments, the sideways glances in stores, the suspicious looks in lobbies, the quiet assumptions whispered behind him. Yet here he was, standing on the very ground he had earned, treated like a criminal before his own front door. Neighbors passed by, their curious glances only adding to the weight of the moment. Some slowed down, whispering. Others quickened, their steps, unwilling to get involved. Each second felt like an eternity as the guards pressed harder. "Sir, if you don't have ID, we can't let you through. Rules are rules." Marcus gripped the handle of his briefcase, the cool metal, biting into his palm. He could have argued. He could have shouted. But he knew too well how quickly anger could be twisted into a weapon against him. Every move, every word, carried risk. And yet, deep down, a storm brewed. Because what the guards didn't know, what they couldn't have imagined, was that the man they were trying to keep out was more than just a resident. His very name was written on the paychecks they cashed each month. But for now, Marcus held that truth close, letting the silence stretch, the tension mount. The question wasn't whether he belonged here. The question was how far they were willing to go before they realized the weight of their mistake. The night air grew heavier as Marcus stood still, his patience thinning with every second. The guards shifted, emboldened by his silence, mistaking his restraint for weakness. One of them stepped closer, his voice rising. "I'm not going to repeat myself. Step back. This property is private. You don't live here." The words, delivered with such certainty, pierced Marcus like knives. He could feel the heat in his chest, his heartbeat pounding in his ears. Every part of him screamed at the injustice. How dare they erase his place in the very home he had built? The second guard reached for his radio, speaking quickly. "Possible. Trespasser at the north gate. Blackmail, mid-40s, refusing to leave." Marcus's jaw tightened. Trespasser. Refusing to leave. Lies layered over prejudice, framing him as a threat when all he wanted was to step through his own door. A small crowd was beginning to gather now, whispers running like wildfire. Who is he? What's happening? Phones lifted, lenses capturing every second, as if his humiliation were entertainment. The guard closest to him placed a firm hand on Marcus's shoulder, trying to push him back. That was the breaking point. Marcus straightened, his voice no longer quiet, but firm, commanding, undeniable. "Take your hand off me!" Something in his tone made the man hesitate, but pride wouldn't let him back down. "Sir, you need to—" Marcus cut him off, his words sharp as steel. "No, you need to understand something. I don't just live here. I own this street. I own this house. And every week, the check that pays you comes from me." For a moment, the world seemed to freeze. The guards blinked, confusion flickering into disbelief. The crowd's murmurs swelled into gasps. Suddenly, the balance of power shifted. The men who had tried to strip him of dignity now stood exposed, small beneath the weight of the truth. The silence that followed was louder than any shout. The guards stepped back slowly, their earlier bravado shattered. The radios in their hands now felt useless, the authority they wielded crumbling under a truth they could no longer deny. The crowd that had gathered fell silent, every pair of eyes fixed on Marcus. For the first time that evening, he didn't feel like the one on trial. He walked past them without another word, his head held high, the gate swinging open at his touch. Each step toward his front door felt heavier than the last, not from shame, but from the weight of what the moment revealed. It wasn't just about him being stopped. It was about what it meant to live in a world where skin color could erase success, dignity, and humanity in the blink of an eye. Inside his home, Marcus set his briefcase down and exhaled deeply. The house, once a symbol of peace, now echoed with the memory of humiliation. He knew the incident would haunt him, not because the guards didn't know who he was, but because it proved that no amount of wealth, achievement, or status could shield him from the prejudice ingrained in the world outside. But he also knew something else. That moment, captured on phones and whispered about in the neighborhood, would not stay hidden. It would spread. And with it, a message too loud to ignore. That racism isn't just about strangers in dark alleys or faraway towns. Sometimes it happens at your very own gate. Marcus didn't ask for attention, but the question now hung in the air for everyone who witnessed it. and for everyone who would hear his story. How many more times must this happen before we finally learn? Thank you for watching this story. What happened to Marcus isn't just his struggle. It's a reflection of a reality that too many people face every day. Racism doesn't always wear a uniform or speak loudly. Sometimes it hides behind assumptions, suspicion, and silence. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And let me know in the comments, what do you think it will take for moments like this to finally end? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more powerful stories, and join me next time as we uncover the truths the world too often tries to ignore.